Okay, you call up somebody you haven't talked to for 5 years, 10 years, and what do? They say, I'm busy. Can you call me back later? And you say, what are you doing? I'm eating lunch. And I go, uh, as a rule of thumb, never interrupt somebody in the minute of their debauchery, eating lunch, dinner, or um, sleeping. In these three different things, these Maslow hierarchy of need things, um, they cannot be interrupted. And I'm laughing because there's nothing more boring in life to me than sleeping, eating, or taking a shower. I'm always laughing when people think that I take a shower really fast, and I say, hey, I have plenty of practice. I said, you would think that after 65 plus years, you'd be pretty fast at it. A lot of people, I don't know what they do. It's the debaucherous thing. I think the senses, the feelings, right? But today I'm talking about asynchronous communication, and this is very, very important to me as a world traveler. My mom, I want to thank Mom Graham for reading her email every day and answering her email. She was what I would call the five C's: continuous, conscientious, caring, contiguous communication. I got the five C's. No, that's a different subject. But I rate people by the five C's. I want them to be able to communicate with me on a continuous basis, and that means I can become friends. As I've understood recently, there's been research that 50 hours of spending with the person is kind of a casual friend. And then when you get up to about 200 hours of spent with the person, you become a real friend. And that's when you have certain friendships. Like that's why your family can be your friend, right? Because you spent so much time with them. But Henry David Thoreau was kind of addicted, I believe, to on Walden Pond in 1845. He was pretty much a letter writer. And if you really study like Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, and all these people, they always act like they're communicating back and forth. This could have taken, I don't know, 2 months to happen, right? So they got this ongoing conversation with the King of England and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I believe that the communication that occurred prior to email, telephone, telegraph, and all these things was better than what it is now. Why? Because they had to be literate. And the people that were communicating, which was probably just 2% of the population, were highly literate. They weren't just a little literate, they were highly literate. So Henry David Thoreau went to Walden Pond for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days in 1845 as a Declaration of Independence. He left on July 4th, and he was communicating always by things. He even, I guess, in one of his things, I couldn't really find it. Finding these quotes is really tough. Okay, sometimes just finding what chapter, what book, whatever on people that are highly quoted is very difficult. I wish brainy quotes and these different things would do better at explaining the actual source. Okay, but I think he must have had, I'd really like to know how much money he spent on mail. But Henry David Thoreau was not a poor guy. Okay, I don't care what they say. He sounds like he's poor, right? He worked as a surveyor, he worked as a handyman, he did all these things, but he went to Harvard, okay? And his parents were kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to buy that he's poor. You don't get to hang around with Ralph Waldo Emerson, Walt Whitman, you know, different people. He's got the who's list of friends, okay? And that means normally, I think it's kind of like the United States Congress right now. Everybody goes to Harvard, Yale, and they're all the good boys club, right? The good old boys club. And they really are living in a bubble. They don't really know it. What is really proud about Henry David Thoreau is he left the bubble, okay? And he would associate with normal people. Okay, people that weren't highly intelligent. I think he saw intelligence in everyone. Well, 99% of people can only see a label. If they haven't got a degree, a professor after their name, a PhD, that means they're not very smart. I often explain that I've been to 114 countries, and that means nothing to people. It means nothing. It doesn't. That experience means nothing. I have to have a title. Okay, but asynchronous is letters. Letters means asynchronous. What does asynchronous mean? Synchronized communication is when I call you up on the phone and you have to be available at that time. It's a time thing. Asynchronous is email. Okay, so many of you are quite angry at email. And I believe right now maybe 1 in 100 people are correctly managing their emails. 1 in 100. And there's probably 25 of them that said, "Oh yeah, I check it all the time." And I test people all the time because I have learned for business, and I used to talk about this in the inquiry handling system in my real estate company. I said, some people want to text you, some people want to email you, some people want to just stop by, some people want to call you, some people want to do different levels of communication. So as a salesperson, it's best to learn to go to the way that figure out their highest and best way for that person to communicate, and then meet them on that ground. And then if there isn't a functional relationship, which is I write you, you write back me, you get rid of them. Okay. Contrary to what you think, I spent more time getting rid of clients than I did finding clients. I had 15 to 16 new clients calling me daily in the United States. But contact management and you can have asynchronous. That's why people like this voicemail, because it makes it so that it doesn't have to be synchronized. And a lot of times they play what we used to play is voicemail tag. And that means that I can sit there and say something to them, they say something to me, and we just keep answering the questions by leaving voicemails. Not a very productive way, highly dysfunctional, really. But a lot of people are not capable of thinking a whole sentence through. So that was very good. I mean, this is why Twitter and X is really famous right now, and Facebook and all these companies. They can only put together like, I don't know, 3 sentences before they become just blathering away, right? Okay, but asynchronous. This is very important for travelers because I'll be in Thailand. I'll never forget Mike in Dominican Republic. I said, "Mike, why don't you go? There's a bunch of prostitutes in Dominican Republic and Sosua. I mean, the whole country, okay? And really great place in a lot of ways. I mean, one of the best beaches on the planet is Sosua, Dominican Republic." I said, "Why don't you go to Thailand?" He says, "I don't want to watch football at midnight." He wanted to watch it real time, right? And there's a value to real time, and we have real time life and asynchronous life that isn't time thing. I only watch movies when I can put on the pause button. I don't watch movies when they're ongoing unless I'm sharing it with a girlfriend or something like that. But what does this have value for? Well, it means that when you have space to reply back, you can. Now, less than 1 in 100 people can actually write paragraphs and put it together. We're becoming highly illiterate. The United States is not becoming more literate. They're maybe becoming better at talking in some ways. They're definitely becoming good at their thumbs or text messaging. And they're thinking in shotgun levels instead of complete constructed conversations, right? And that is a problem. For me, it's a big problem. But what am I trying to do? I'm trying to figure out a way to communicate with the world. I'm 65 plus, and I just want to have friends, right? I want to have a lot of friends. And I will meet them on any ground. So like Wade, I meet at Wade and Cliff, I talk to on Signal. Steve in Philippines, I talk to only on Facebook Messenger. My sister, I don't know, when she calls me. My one sister, my other sister, I can only contact her by text message. I mean, telephone, text message. So like cell phone to cell phone, even though I'm Skype to telephone, voice over IP. I got Rick that I can communicate with on WhatsApp. I got a couple friends that I just go on. Jeff is I can call him up anytime I want. I really like the ones I can just call up anytime I want. That means to me they're time management. It's all about time management, and that's what asynchronous is about. If you can make yourself asynchronous, but a lot of people don't realize that the time they spent texting, they could have had the conversation done. I think they just they're not very good at saying I gotta go. Okay, when my friend Jeff says he's got to go, he's at work. I just said go. I got two Jeff friends, and both of them I say, hey, if you got to go, you got to go. No big deal. It's not that big a deal. Okay, I am not calling anybody, but calling right now I was trying to contact all the a bunch of newspapers to write articles for them. It's not possible. You can't call them, you can't write them, you can't do anything. They get zero response, and there's a great reason why they should go out of business. If you don't have a way to manage comments and people calling you and whatever, you might as well go out of business. Okay, because if you don't want to stay in touch with your members, your clients, and whatever, the only thing that most of these newspapers would do would tell you how to subscribe to the newspaper. And but if I wanted to call them up and say there's something happening, blah blah blah, report a crime or whatever, or a fire or something, it's almost impossible. Okay, I was in Costa Rica calling up all these newspapers. I thought I was going to write a bunch of articles for newspapers, being that I'm one of the most experienced travelers on the planet. And I thought this is going to be a brain dead easy thing to do. I couldn't even open the door. The only way to open the door of a newspaper is to go to the door and knock on their door. There's another way of communicating with people, but it's not asynchronous. That's synchronized. They're there, I'm there. Asynchronous is email, and it's a little bit text message if you know when the person's awake. If you can text them between the times they're awake to the times they're thinking, and they're not eating, and they're not busy, and hopefully they're not angry. What has become the dysfunctional basis of communication right now is everybody is an annoyance, and they do a binary thing. There's everybody it's everybody. I write up people. I would say that 60% of the people I call up, the first words out of their mouth is, I'm busy. And I go, well, frickin' be smart enough not to answer the phone, ding-a-ling. Do not insult me on when you could. But in 1845, Henry David Thoreau had a really calm life, but he had an overactive brain. I have an overactive brain. But he went to the woods. Okay, he only went about a 30-minute. I think it's 1.7 miles away. What did I come up with? I was writing about this. He went 1.7. So he's 30 minutes away, and they act like they're in. He went to the bush, right? Going to the bush is maybe a one. I remember when I asked Ba to marry me, and she said I had to walk for a day and take a donkey in Ivory Coast to get to the rubber fields where her father lives. I go, okay, whoa, that's the bush. In Africa, they call it going to the bush. Okay, here, hopakais, that means in Kachikel, it means to go to the woods, which is what young couples do when they want to have privacy. Hopakais. Okay, but electricity was first installed in Massachusetts in 1883. So this was 38 years after Henry lived on Walden Woods. The telephone was patented in 1876. And 31 years after they were on Walden. This was 31 years. The patent was 31 years after Henry was on Walden. He had very little communication. The only communication he actually had was one-on-one, personal. Couldn't call him up and say, I'm coming over. He just stopped over. In small towns, in a lot of places, especially in Guatemala, you just stop over. That's one thing I really love about the 200 normal countries is you just stop over, okay? You just stop over. The telephone's almost valueless. And they don't care because they got a lot of time. They're not overwhelmed. So the richer they are, the more stress they have. It's kind of humorous. The people with the worst quality of life, the management of their time, is the richest people on the planet. Maybe I think you can. A person that cannot manage their time doesn't really understand the goal. Okay, but asynchronous is a windfall. Bill Gates wrote about this in the book, The Road Ahead. And it's a really good book. And I know a lot of you cop an attitude the minute you hear thing. There's some brilliant criminals, Machiavellian. There's different people that are genius, and even they. And I think that Robert Greene is kind of creepy sometimes, but he's a genius, right? He's writing all these books on power right now. But come on, Jordan Peterson doesn't smile enough. The only person I can almost always say is a great guy is Thomas Sowell. Okay, and the guy that interviews him, I always forget his name. Okay, asynchronous means think. So email is asynchronous. That means that I can keep a continuous conversation even though I'm very busy. Unless the person's a sociopath and they have zero compulsion to reply. Anybody that has zero compulsion to reply to me, I erase. I ghost them. They're not conscientious to be my friend. Text message, same kind of thing. But there's some people that, know enough to leave that dot up there. They leave the dot on the phone until they have a chance to reply. I wonder if I got one on my phone right now. But that's one of the great things about notifications on smartphones. They'll give a little dot, and that dot, okay, you see that one on Skype right there? That means I have a message. Now, I'm not going to click on that message until I have time to deal with it. And that's where people screw up. They always want to say, I'll get around to it later. Well, they forget about it, right? Don't click on that message until you're ready to deal with it, okay? One-on-one, deal with it. Only touch something one time. Time management. But asynchronous is very important for travelers and the email. So I'm thinking about only dealing with people. So I'm trying to make my world simple. And the best way for me to do this is to only deal with people that are Patreon supporters only. And if they're not a Patreon supporter, then the only thing they could trade me is a lot of knowledge in exchange for a lot of knowledge. And that's what a good friend is. I mean, two friends are reciprocity, right? We exchange knowledge back and forth. And I'm always trying to find friends that give me knowledge and not anger, okay? Most of my friends, oh man, they're just angry. And I go, come on, guys, why don't you change the channel? I have learned that by not watching the news on YouTube and only reading it, I don't get angry. Okay, now I'm reading like 100 different websites over the course of a week. I read about 100 websites every day. I look at about 20 different ones. Okay, and I have this great big long database. Not a base. It's favorites. My favorites in Chrome, and I can open up 10 different websites really quick, really, really great. And I can prioritize them so I can read like only Indiana news. Okay, but I have emotional management. So travels about, and this is where I think Henry David Thoreau was a genius. He understood how to manage his emotions. And he actually, one of the biggest things he did is he hated society. That made it easy, okay? If you basically consider all of society a foolish idiot, then you don't take them serious. If you take somebody serious, that's when you get angry at them. I mean, I get angry only at the people that I think are smart enough that are ignoring me. And then if they ignore me more than 3 times, I get rid of them, okay? Because if we're talking and we're not having a discussion where I say something to you and you say, I don't know why we're talking, right? I'm just listening to you. A lot of people, you think that people would get near me, they'd ask me a bunch of travel questions. Normally what they get next to me is they want me to validate what they're doing is correct. And I almost always say, no, it's not correct, but they just continue to go on and on and on. And That's the reason why I'm trying to get this, what I call like a members only list. Okay. And I think everybody, and I'm hoping in the future that artificial intelligence makes it so that they read your behavior and then they start prioritizing your email. They start prioritizing your phone calls, and they start asking you a question. Do you want this person put on waivers where you don't answer them? Do you want this person completely blocked? Do you do it? But I really don't want the person to make that decision. I want the AI to be smart enough to make the decision, because most people don't realize some of the people they say they hate the most, they love the most. I mean, it's amazing how many people talk to somebody they say they don't like every day of the week. And I go, if you don't like them, why do you keep talking to them? I had this guy, Enos, from Australia, that was absolutely incorrigibly crazy. Okay. And he constantly insulted me. One day I just looked at him and said, Enos, I'm never talking to you again in my life. And I didn't. I mean, I sort of said hi a couple times. But why would I give my brain and my time to a person that continually insults me? You got somebody like that to continually insults you? Have enough pride in yourself to say no to them. Just ghost them. Erase them. Pass judgment. God came to pass judgment. Okay, you're going to go to hell, you're not. And if you're talking to evil people, you're going to go to hell. Okay, and that's how it works. Okay, asynchronous. So please try to concentrate on this and separate the thing. And then I think as we get older, what we should do is create a members only list or a friends only list. And I'm going to start creating a dossier on all my friends, because I have to know which is the highest and best form of communication. Some people, there's random. They're the worst. There's some people that, anybody that refuses to be conscientious enough to reply to an email or a text message or call me back, I have no use for them. I see them as an abusive person. Okay, that's the husband that talks to his wife, she don't reply. She talks to him, he don't listen. He says he's going to be home at 6 o'clock. He comes home at 8. This is abuse. Okay, and a lot of times they don't even know it. They just are naturally, inherently, intrinsically abusive people, and they don't seem abusive, but it's nothing worse than a passive aggressive person. Okay, but they're always smiling, always happy, and just screwing you in the eyes. Okay, but I'm going to make a members only list. I'm going to get rid of this join on YouTube. And I was talking to Rick today. I want everybody that's on, I'm going to call up these people. I don't know what I got to do. I'm just going to end it somehow. Please do not join the YouTube thing. I'm sorry I started that, but I need one way to communicate and one priority system. If you're not, you can write me an email, and if you're asking a world's brain buzz question, I will join, and then I will introduce it. If you're just asking me some sort of travel question, like, I won't reply. I enjoy not replying to people that are so selfish that they think I owe them an answer. I don't owe anybody an answer. And that's where people get upset. They feel guilty when somebody, like I told somebody, I said, I don't want to talk to you. I told her the other day at the coffee shop. And I basically said, hey, I don't really have any use for you guys. I don't think they really heard that. And they don't realize that I am a cordial person, and I will be a gentleman in talking. But I talked to this guy, Bill, the other day. He started talking to me, and I go, I got no use for him. Okay, when I have no use for somebody, I just nod my head and say, I don't walk towards them. When you walk towards somebody, that's when they come towards you. You don't like somebody, walk away from them. That's body language. Okay, but I'm going to make this members only list. And right now I think we have 4 different levels of Patreon. $5, which just means I will reply to emails and stuff. And then $25 a month, where they can call me up once in a month, kind of an emergency thing. I want people to know that if they're trapped in a country and they got different things going on, call me up and let me help you. Okay, then we got this $100 a month, which means I'm going to come visit you. Okay, because if you're anywhere near after about $600, I figure that it costs me $600 to $700 to go one way anywhere on the planet. And then $500 is I think I did 500. I don't know. I don't read this stuff. I don't pay much attention to it. But I like to do consulting. Okay, but I like to do consulting only with people that have reciprocity and have respect. And that is the problem. Most of the people that need the consulting are not, they have problems. And I mean, I don't know how many people pay me for consulting and then I cannot communicate with them. I say, call me anytime you want. And that's too difficult. They're so highly dysfunctional, they lose their money. And I go, hey, I'm here. You can call me anytime you want. A lot of them can't understand. I say, let it ring 20 times because it takes about 8 rings to leave the United States. I don't know how many times I tell people this, and they don't seem to grasp this. But asymmetrical communication is email. And I do believe that the 1% that actually read their email and can manage their email are the smartest of the smart. So if you want to give a way to know who's really smart, write emails. If you want to know who's conscientious, just text message them or call them and leave a message on their voicemail. Like if you're going to try to interview a real estate agent and you leave a message in a voicemail and they don't call you back within 12 hours, give them the boot. They're worthless. There are worthless people. And this is where I think everybody breaks down, is they don't want to have any kind of judgment, as if, the 10 Commandments, that's a pretty harsh thing. Going to hell? That's really outrageously rude. You're going to kill me. You're going to burn me in hell for the rest of my life. And then I just want to say, I'm not going to go. I'll never forget when Doug Adams, my one friend, he's now dead, he invited me to go to this gay bar. And I go, are you nuts? He goes, I'll sit here at the coffee shop and talk to you. I'm not going to go to a gay bar. He goes, but I'd like to have you come along with me. And I go, Doug, you're 75 plus years old. You're gay. It's just not a targeted way to enjoy life. And that's where people don't realize, is that we all have the right to choose what we talk about. And like the best way for most of these problems that are becoming number one issues should just stop. I keep thinking like the transgender toilets. This has got to be the easiest problem there is in the world. All we got to do is like put a lock on every single stall, get rid of those stand-up pissers, and make it so that there's privacy for everybody going to the urinating or defecating, right? Why do they have to have a girl's restroom and a boy's restroom? Just tear the whole freaking thing down and make a bunch of little restrooms. Let them have the privacy. It's like that handicap. You got these places where you can change diapers. Supposedly, I guess diapers needs to be in private because we should never see a little baby, which is kind of creepy to think that people have problems looking at children naked. Some really crazy stuff. Okay, asynchronous and synchronized. So if you separate these two things and you start defining what the highest or the primary way to communicate with your friends, you can do it. But if you're a business person, I think you need to be able to do all the different levels. Like I get really upset when my real estate company where somebody wanted to fax me only, and I would just fax them back. I don't deal with people with fax only because it's just insane. And faxes are normally shared by a bunch of people and whatever. But what made me a lot of money in real estate is I didn't let the secretary answer the phone. I had the phone come right to me. Made for a $1,800 a month cell phone bill at the time, which you can do now for $25. But the people wanted to talk to me. And I would often have 1 or 2 people on hold, which is very hard to do on a cell phone. But people want to know that there's a continuous communication between two people. If a person continually blocks communication with you, block them. If you write somebody more than 3 times, I have a I have a bunch of YouTube channels, and I'm doing most of my shorts on there. There's people that have no ability to concentrate for longer than 1 minute. And that's where I put it. I got like, I don't know, 14 different YouTube channels. On the bottom of this thing, you could, if you went to the main page where it shows all the different older videos, at the very bottom it would show all these different. I put up a lot of videos about Lake Athlon. I put a lot of videos up about. I'm going to start doing a lot of strategies and negotiations because they're just pingers, right? And I like to make them because the minute I use the words to explain something, that's the reason why you should always talk to your friends. Your friends are the mirror of who you are. And if you're not willing to talk to any of your friends, you're basically talking to a crazy person. Because a person that only talks to themselves is crazy. That's what a crazy person does. They walk down the street talking to themselves. A person that has always the filter of talking to a lot of their friends. If you have no friends that you can talk to on one way, you might go to a psychologist, or talk to somebody, because everybody should at least have 5 or 10 people that on an ongoing basis they have a discussion, more than just their work friends. And if you cannot maintain a relationship, that's a signal of a kind of a problem. A lot of the people that want to travel abroad, I talked to people and I said, well, if you have a problem, do you have somebody who can send you your ATM card? For example, you go to Thailand, your ATM card gets lost. Do you have somebody that can go to the bank, pick that thing up? You're willing to give them a power of attorney. I give 5 people a power of attorney. Universal. They can do anything they want. I trust them that much. And then they can go to the bank, pick up my ATM card, and then, FedEx it to me or whatever, right? A lot of people, probably 80%, say there's nobody. They don't, people have 4 children, they all hate them. It's a sad state of being. Okay, go to my Patreon, and if you want to communicate with me on a long term, eventually we'll get to a level where I'm only making videos for the Patreon members. Yeah, that'll be a long ways away. But I like to make the videos, and they're fun. On the other side is because, why are they fun? They're fun because I take my subconscious thoughts, and this is what Henry David Thoreau did. He took his subconscious thoughts and put them down in the paper, and he made them real. And that's why he became such a great writer. I'm writing a book on Henry David Thoreau, using him as a guide in a guidebook. He's got all the categories of a guidebook in the book Walden. And I know some of you have no use for that. And that means I don't care. Why would I care about people? I'm often laughing when somebody complains about my videos. I go, you got a mouse, you got a finger, go do something else. I said the goal of everything is to read the headlines and then go further and further. And the people that really want, they want more. The people that really want to hear what you're saying, they want more. The people that don't have any interest should have stopped at the headline. Most people should just throw away their smartphone because they only care about talking. They don't care about anybody. They don't have any intake of information. They only have outtake of information. That's where social networks have become really a problem, because I think it's an entertainment. It's like continuously watching television all day long. It's worse than television. Smartphones are 10 times worse than I think. If somebody says they don't watch television, I say, then why the frick you got that smartphone in your hand? It's really idiocy. People don't, they come up with trendy things to be mad at, right? I watch television, I watch movies, I watch my smartphone, I do everything because I do things in balance. It's all about balance. Okay, hit that subscribe button and become, if you really desire to communicate with me, you're going to have to show that you're a Patreon supporter. I hate to say it, but I got to draw the line somewhere, right? I got to be able to say, because when I'd rather become, it's like all my friends in Togo. I have like 8 friends in Togo I talk to all the time. Wonder why it's always girls. I guess I got odd gee. One guy and 8 girls always communicate with me. I don't know. But I'd rather talk to women than men. Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm in Lake Atalan, Guatemala. I'm going to go to Panama in about March 8th, 2024. I'm going to stay there for about 3 weeks a month. Then I'm going to figure out what's going on in the Darien Gap, people leaving it. Then I'm going to fly to Medellin, and then I'm going to go through the Darien Gap. So if one of you is really adventuresome, you're not overweight, you got a lot of strength, and you are very verbal and communicative and very nice, maybe you can come go with me. Probably not. I'm very I'll never forget when I was in Iraq and this guy wanted to go to Babylon with us. Ela was the place where it was. I said, no, you're a crazy person. He says, well, Peter and Chris are going to let me. I said, I don't give a crap what Peter and Chris do. You're not going with me under any condition. This is a dangerous place. He goes, how do you make the decision? I make the decision for me first. If Chris and Peter don't like that, they can stay with you too. I said, I don't go with crazy people under any condition in dangerous places. But I do enjoy the crazy people. I'm going to make a list of the craziest places on the planet. I think it's probably going to be Lake Atalan, Vilcabamba, New York City. And I'll come up with 5 different things. And I'll explain why they're the craziest places ever. And it's really fun for a person like Jordan Peterson or a psychologist or a philosopher to go to crazy places. Why? We like to know how people think. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham. I'm here and you're not. Why not? I enjoy how people think.